My name's Eli Nielsen. We're at EcoSense Yard on LaTroy and Wetmore. We've been in business since 2009, specializing in rainwater harvesting and native and air-adapted low water use landscapes, Sonoran Desert appropriate landscapes, hardy resilient landscapes. I also work at the Rain Store, which is a little bit more in town. It's on Grant Country Club. The Rain Store. So at EcoSense, we oftentimes talk people out of rainwater harvesting tanks. We really try to sell them on low water landscapes that utilize passive harvesting as a foundation. That being said, we still install tanks, and the Rain Store is a place not only do we sell rainwater harvesting tanks, but we sell all the stuff that you could need to use that rainwater once you store it. Because we found one of the problems was once people have it and they capture it and you got it, what do you do with it? How do you take that water out of that tank and use that in your garden? How do you use that to grow native vegetation in an easy way that doesn't require lots of pumps and switches and mechanisms? So you can go down there, see lots of different tanks on display, talk through all the different options ranging from 55-gallon drums to 5,000-gallon cisterns and kind of everything in between. And then we've got some demonstrations down there of how these things work and how can they be used. Yeah, so my background's in urban planning. I put myself through school in Phoenix working. I started out installing artificial turf, grass and putting greens. Definitely not necessarily environmentally friendly. Low water use than turf grass, but still high water use in production, and it's a big mat of plastic in your landscape that heats up and doesn't do anything for the soils. That company I worked for got sold to a nursery. When I went to work for that nursery doing artificial grass and putting greens, we got into a lot more landscape and doing kind of what is considered more traditional landscape in Phoenix. So not necessarily low water stuff, a lot of fruit trees. And then when I was going to school up at ASU, I was at the College of Sustainability and took some classes that talked about just sustainability, something I never even heard of before, never even thought about. Ran into George Brookbank's Desert Gardening book, Brad Lancaster, Rainwater Harvesting for Dry Lands, and really started thinking that there are ways to do landscaping in a much more sustainable, resilient way, which really was exciting. And I really started seeing how dumb it was, the way that we were doing all this stuff up there. How, we don't have water, yet we're planting really water-intensive plants. Doing maintenance in this way that treats all of these really beautiful plants that flower and have these natural bloom cycles and natural forms and shapes, and then we were boxing them and shearing them and turning them into gumdrops and lollipops and making them look like anything other than what they were. And I just thought that this is stupid and there's a much cooler way we could do this. So started EcoSense primarily as a maintenance company, thinking we could do maintenance a lot better. So we had a solar panel on our truck. We were going around still doing some of the same dumb stuff, but doing it in a slightly less dumb way. So doing, rather than having a gas-powered hedge trimmer, we had a electric battery-powered hedge trimmer powered by our solar panel. And then again, it's been a real progression, because started doing that and then realized this is just a dumb way of doing the same thing. It's just different. So I've got more into natural pruning, natural aesthetics. Been real fortunate to work with some other incredible landscape designers. We've continued to kind of adapt our style over time, and we have an aesthetic now that I think is kind of uniquely ours, that we take a lot of pride in and really work hard to kind of hone. And so I think my sense of style and landscape has evolved as the company has, and hopefully continues to evolve. Always just get real excited to plant trees. I just like planting a tree and knowing that I can drive by that tree in 10 years or 15 years or 20 years or 50 years and that tree is going to grow and be healthy and support kind of a healthy urban core, hopefully do some small part to combat climate change. Again, I've made some great friends in the running community that have kind of encouraged me to get out further from my house and into the mountains, and I then figured out that I could run all the way from my house to the top of Mount Lemmon without ever getting on a paved road. And the ability to do that and to get back into nature and to get to these places where you're really removed from people and from kind of urbanization, and it's quiet, but it's just right there, kind of in our proverbial backyard, has really been a blessing for me, because it is how I relax and unwind and connect, and it's where I'm able to kind of think and really take deep breaths and decompress and get inspired, find inspiration from everything from like the plant groupings that we use to the rock groupings to just seeing what this stuff looks like in nature. That we rethink bark mulch in snow and desert landscapes. I think that bark mulch is a something that works in some isolated rainwater harvesting basins and scenarios. I think overall it is the wrong surfacing to use for a naturalistic restoration style rain garden in Tucson. We fight that good fight all the time, both anecdotally and in talking to people that are a lot smarter than us. We've seen that bark mulch will deplete soils of moisture and nutrients and inhibit plant growth. Not in all situations, but in the type of gardens that we do with utilizing snow and desert plants, there are better alternatives. We use mixed aggregate, and we typically blend that with different amounts of compost. So the idea is you're doing what bark mulch does, which is provide nutrients to the soil, but whereas bark mulch can take years, 4, 5, 10 years before you're able to kind of break that down into snow and desert landscape and introduce those nutrients back into the soil. We're skipping ahead to the part where the compost is already broken down and ready to release that and starts nurturing and enhancing soil health right away. Rainwater harvesting should be the foundation. It should be what you start with. It shouldn't be something that you add into the margins or fringes when your clients ask for it or when there's room or when budgets permit. It should be the foundation of it, because the landscapes that don't incorporate that may look beautiful when they're installed, but again, if we drive back through Tucson in 10 or 20 years, those are going to be the same landscapes that are pulled up and changed and tweaked and made to harvest rainwater, because we just don't have the water resources to continue to water these landscapes. So I don't think it's necessarily enough just to use low water plants, or plants that need minimal irrigation. I think it's imperative that we both design and shape our landscapes to accept rainwater and pick plants that can survive without supplemental irrigation. And I think doing anything other than that is doing yourself and your clients and the city a disservice. Does that sound too judgy?